This is Khadevis Robinson, and this is the Khadevis Robinson Challenge. This week, my challenge for you is to judge not. When I say judge not, I mean do not judge others because you don't know from where they came from. There's a great story in the Bible, and it talks about that. It talks about when, Jesus went up into the Mount of Olives, and he went up in there early in the morning, and then he came down again into the temple. And all the people came unto him, and he sat down and he taught them. Now, after a while, the scribes and the Pharisees brought into him a woman taken to adultery, and they had set her in his midst. And they said, they looked at him and they said, Master, this woman was taken into adultery in the very act. Now, that's important. They said the very act. And the reason they said that because if they didn't catch the woman doing it in the very act, then obviously Jesus could just say, well, how do y'all know she did it? Who told you that? Could it be true? Go back and find some information and let me know if it's true or not. But no, they said we found this woman doing it in the very act. Now, they knew that by doing this, they was putting Jesus in a very particular situation. Now, you see, Moses in the law commanded that such person should be stoned, right? But they also know that, Jesus always said, to take the more humane route, So this, they said, they tempted him, But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he had not heard them. Now, think about that. They come to him and they say, now, listen, we found this woman. We found her right in the act of doing some stuff, and we see that she has, she's in adultery. And they said, we saw her and we caught her in the exact act. So what do you say we need to do to her? Now, Moses said, and the book says, she need to be stoned. And you teach all this, love and peace and working together. So what should we do? Should we do what you say? If we do what you usually say, then that means that you're going against what Moses said, right? But if you do what Moses said, then that means you're not as, forgiving as you say you should do. Now, what Jesus did is he just kneeled down and started writing in the ground. The question is, why did he do that? Why did he stoop down and start writing in the ground? And the reason is he was thinking. He was thinking. He understood that he was being tempted, and he understood the dilemma that was before him. But instead of just blurting something out, instead of trying to answer then, instead of doing something which would make others react in a certain way, he stooped down and he started thinking. Now, after he thought for a while, he looked up and he said, listen, he who was not sin, let them cast the first stone. Now, you got to remember something. Sinning in this situation wasn't a situation of just the actual action, meaning it could also be a thought, because sinning in action, you can sin in action, you can sin in thought also. So obviously, Jesus understood that every one of those people probably had sinned. And you see, and by doing it that way, he was not judging them, and he also was not judging her. So the reason I say that this is a challenge for everyone this week is because I think sometimes, especially during the social media age, we are so quick to actually judge. And sometimes, if you really think about it, we're judging ourselves. We're judging ourselves too much. We're trying to compare ourselves, judge ourselves accordingly to what we're seeing on either TV or what we listen to on the radio or what's on the internet. And that's not productive. And also, we're judging others, not knowing where their starting point was at, not knowing why they're doing what they're doing. And really, if you really think about it, why judge in the first place? Why use energy in that direction? Like I said, the challenge for this week is to judge not. So anytime you find yourself judging, and this is going to take some energy. This is going to take some effort because we do it very subconsciously. And again, I'm not just speaking of judging negatively. I'm just saying judging in particular, and also just judging yourself when you're saying, oh, I should, this, and that, especially when you're comparing. It's the comparative judging. I want you to stop. Do as Jesus did, which is kneel down and write in the ground, which I don't want you to, literally kneel down and write in the ground, but I want you to stop and gather your thoughts, gather yourself before you continue to move on. This has been Khadevis Robinson. This is the Khadevis Robinson Challenge, and I holla.